My child, before you scroll even 1 inch further, I need you to pause. Archangel Michael says, today is far from ordinary. There's something hidden, something dangerous, that you've been kept from knowing, until now. I was sent by the divine to break a sacred seal. Inside that seal is a name you once trusted. But the truth, they are not who they appear to be. Don't look away, because within moments that name will rise, the same one whispered behind your back, connected to spiritual deception. And deep down you already feel it, you've sensed the shift, the strange behavior, the dreams that didn't make sense. That wasn't random, it was heaven warning you. Because now on August 7th, Archangel Michael has received divine clearance, to unveil what's been in the dark. The person who tried to silence your spirit, is now being brought into the light. If you turn away now, you may never realize how near you came to harm, or how fiercely heaven fought to keep you safe. Take a breath, you're not alone. Heaven is leaning in, listen carefully, because while Michael rarely pleads, this time he insisted on delivering this personally. This is your love letter from above. And if your heart is racing, if the air around you feels heavier, know this is not coincidence. Subscribe to this moment, so it won't be lost in the noise. Some parts of this message may disappear soon, and you were meant to receive it, while it still remains. Michael has never once stepped away from your battles. He was there when your voice cracked in the silence, when you whispered into the dark, "Why do they hate me, when I've only ever loved them?" Heaven heard that cry, God responded with this message. Because there is someone, yes, someone you once welcomed with open arms, whose heart twisted with envy. You might have called them your friend, but behind your back, they spoke your name with resentment. I'm not here to bring fear, I'm here to open your eyes. Michael says, you have every right to know the truth. And here it begins, there are spiritual agreements, formed without your permission. One such contract carried your name. But heaven merciful and mighty tore it apart, before it could ever touch your soul. Yet the one who wrote it, they must be named. Their disguise is falling, and God says, it's time. You're about to be shown the name. But first Michael needs you to remember, you are not weak, you are not vulnerable, you are protected by divine forces, that no curse can overpower. What was sent against you failed, but remnants remain. That lingering heaviness, the unexplained exhaustion, people distancing themselves, moments where everything seemed to stall. That wasn't life being random, that was targeted spiritual interference. Yet you were chosen to rise, you were selected to endure. And that is why you are still here, reading this now. Don't stop, because once this message is complete, something dark, something that clung to you, will be broken off for good. Now let me tell you what others won't. The true enemy of your soul, they weren't a stranger. They were someone you held, helped, even healed. Someone you defended, when no one else would. And they twisted that love. They weaponized your loyalty. Michael says, their time is over. The veil is lifting, heaven has released the truth. If you're still reading, that means your spirit is ready. That means your soul was meant to receive this. Because when the name arrives, you won't question it. You'll feel it in your chest, you'll know. This is not just about a person, it's about what comes next. This is your pivot point. So speak silently now. God, I open myself to the truth. Michael, protect me as the truth unfolds. Let no harm come near me again. You're still here, exactly as Michael hoped. He knew you would arrive at this line. He knew your spirit would pick up the warning, even if your mind hesitated. But now there's no returning to the silence. What your heart has felt, creeping below the surface, will finally be made clear. Michael says, this is your mirror. What's coming next will show what's been lurking in the spiritual shadows. So take one more breath. This isn't just about betrayal, it's about liberation. It's about who you are destined to become, once this false connection is broken. They were likable. That's the first thing. They knew how to charm, how to blend in. People believed in them, respected them. But around you, that admiration turned inward, turned dark. As you began to shine, as you stepped into your calling, their secret jealousy deepened. You celebrated others, they celebrated themselves. But in private, they planted spiritual seeds, meant to block your breakthroughs. Their kindness was performance, their compassion, calculated. They watched you closely, not to lift you, but to pinpoint your vulnerabilities. Michael says, they once overheard you speak a hope about your future, and in that moment, they set their heart to destroy it. That was when they started pretending harder. The mask became their second skin. But now God demands that mask be torn away. And August 7th is the divine day of reckoning. Michael declares, this is the moment the delay ends. The day you find out why it all felt stuck, why your blessings seemed paused. The answer isn't because you lacked faith, it's because you were carrying spiritual interference, disguised as connection. But not anymore, heaven has spoken. And this moment is your first step toward being fully unbound. Michael says, there was a miracle scheduled for you long ago, a divine event written in heaven's timeline, but the interference caused by this person's energy created fog around it. Now with their energy disconnected, and their presence spiritually revoked, the fog lifts. What has been hidden is stepping forward, what was delayed is being delivered. And here's the beautiful part, God says, the pain you endured because of them, has now qualified you for something greater. The tears you cried became seeds, and heaven has been watering them in silence. You're about to walk into a season, where what was meant to break you, becomes the reason you shine. Child of light, listen carefully. Do not be afraid of how this blessing arrives. It may come disguised as something small, as a whisper of hope, or an unexpected opportunity. But it's divine. Your job is to say yes. Say yes to healing. Say yes to releasing their hold on your emotions. Say yes to everything that aligns with peace, joy, and truth. Michael says, you have been in spiritual training for this. Every lonely night, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer, it was not punishment, it was preparation. You were never forgotten, you were being refined. And now it's your time to take flight. But before you step into that, Michael wants you to do one final thing. Quiet your thoughts, breathe in, put your hand over your chest, and ask yourself this: am I still carrying pain that doesn't belong to me? Because if the answer is yes, then now is the moment to drop it. Not tomorrow, not when they apologize, but now. You are no longer the version of yourself who tolerated emotional theft. You are no longer the person who begged to be understood. God says, from this point on, your energy belongs to your calling, not their chaos. And you might feel strange letting go. That's okay. Healing often feels like loss at first. But what you're losing is only what was holding you back. You're not breaking, you're finally shedding. Now take another breath. Michael says, this was always going to be the moment. The line in the sand. The final whisper before the wind shifts. And you, beloved, are standing on sacred ground. That's why you were drawn to this message, not by accident, but by divine alignment. Somewhere deep in your spirit, you knew it was time. Time to release the name, time to accept the truth, time to let the chapter close, and the next one begin. So what comes now? Peace. Not the kind that visits briefly and disappears. The kind that settles into your bones. The kind that protects your nights and renews your days. Because Michael says, your spirit is now cleansed from their residue. The old cord is cut. Their shadow cannot follow where you're going. And though you may still hear their name, it won't sting anymore. It won't shake you. Because you now carry clarity instead of confusion, power instead of pain, light instead of illusion. Child of light, you've crossed the threshold. God says, the one who tried to diminish you, has now amplified your anointing. That's what spiritual warfare does, it awakens the warrior. And you are no longer in survival mode, you are in alignment now. And here's the sacred promise, Michael wants to leave in your heart: now that you've received this truth, you will begin to see evidence. Signs that confirm what your soul already knew, messages, moments, movements. Watch for them, they will be quiet but powerful. And when they come, you'll smile, not because they proved anything to others, but because you'll know heaven kept its word. You were defended, even when you didn't know the attacks existed. You were protected, even when you felt most alone. And you were guided here, for this very unveiling. You have now passed through the fire. And what remains is holy. So from here forward, walk with your head lifted. Speak with the authority that comes from surviving betrayal and still choosing love. You don't need revenge, you don't need closure from them. The closure came the moment you chose yourself. And yes, you will rise, not in spite of what they did, but because heaven decided that no weapon formed against you would prosper. The path ahead may not be easy, but it will be divine. Michael says, start walking. Your blessing is not at the destination, it's in every step you take forward from here. One miracle, one moment that proves they are seen, this is that moment. And now Archangel Michael stands up, his sword glowing with a light not from this world. He turns to face what was sent to block you, and with a single word it shatters. That word, justice. Because what's unfolding now is not just recovery, it's restoration layered with reward. Every lie told about you will echo back to the speaker. Every delay you faced will become a divine acceleration. Every tear you cried in silence will now be seen in public glory. Michael says, they thought they silenced you. They thought the weight they placed on your chest would crush your voice. But God says, I used that pressure to shape your roar. You see, the enemy thought they buried you, but they didn't know you were a seed. And now the roots are breaking through dimensions. The growth can't be stopped. It's not just coming, it's here. This is the beginning of everything they said you'd never become. You may still feel hesitant, wondering, can I really walk into this? But hear this, Michael says, yes. You're not just allowed to rise, you're anointed to rise. This moment is what your soul waited for, before time even began. The blueprint was drawn in the Spirit, and now in this very season, you are stepping into the manifestation of a heavenly promise. God says, you are not behind, you are not late. The enemy tried to reroute you, but I rerouted the rerouting. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Take a breath, feel it. The shift isn't just emotional, it's spiritual, physical, cosmic. Angels are walking beside you now, guiding steps you once stumbled through. The confusion is being cleared, the fear is fading, the shame is being uprooted at the root. And now that the name has been exposed, and the energy removed, something dormant awakens within you. It's ancient, it's holy, it's the real you, the version they tried to dim. And here's what Michael wants you to know next, you're about to attract what you were always worthy of. Not just people but purpose. Not just opportunities but destiny. Your light will no longer be mistaken for a spotlight, it will be recognized as divine alignment. And child of light, hear this deeply. This new season will not require begging, explaining, or performing. You are enough. Your essence is the invitation. Your presence is the portal. The ones meant to walk with you now will recognize your frequency immediately. You won't need to convince anyone of your worth. Michael says, watch how fast it turns, once you accept this truth, you never needed them. They needed your light, to validate their shadows. But now their access is revoked, their influence dissolved, and their place in your story erased. The next days, weeks, and even minutes, will unfold with divine confirmation. You'll hear something that shocks you. A message, a dream, a door you gave up on. It's not random, it's reactivation. What you once let go of, because you thought it was too late, God never let go of. Because you were never disqualified, only being prepared. The rejection, the heartbreak, the isolation, it wasn't the end, it was the initiation. Heaven has been watching, God has been planning, and now the veil has been lifted. You are stepping into a chapter that couldn't begin until you saw the truth behind the mask. And now that you have, everything changes. Michael leans close again, and says gently, you will not return to who you were before this moment. That version of you served its purpose. But now you are to rise, not with vengeance, but with vision. Because your calling is bigger than revenge. Your mission is louder than their mocking. And your glow is too bright to be dimmed by small minds. Let your next steps be sacred, speak only what uplifts. Surround yourself only with what nourishes. And walk only where peace confirms the path. Because now the most powerful part begins, the part where your testimony turns into transformation. Where your pain becomes prophecy. Where your history becomes the launch pad for your legacy. And Michael whispers one final truth before the scroll is sealed: they underestimated the one, who was covered in silence, but backed by heaven. You didn't just survive, you were refined. And now you are unstoppable. Take this moment seriously, stand up straighter, speak kinder, choose wisely, love freely, and most of all, believe boldly. Because now nothing is missing, nothing is broken, and nothing that was yours can be kept from you anymore. The divine release has begun. The reversal is in progress. And the restoration is already unfolding. You have walked through the valley of betrayal, and come out with the light of truth, glowing in your hands. Now go where you were always meant to go. With nothing holding you back. With everything God promised in full motion. Because this is what they tried to stop. And this is only the beginning. Your breakdown wasn't the end, it was the bending before the breakthrough. What felt like defeat was God folding you into His hands, shaping you for something greater. You weren't being destroyed, you were being designed. And now as heaven opens this final scroll, Michael says, it's time to reclaim everything that was once called too late. That old story you were stuck in, it's being edited in heaven's ink. The pen was never in their hands, it's always been God's, and He never stopped writing you forward. They tried to close the book before the good part began, but Archangel Michael declares, now the chapter they never wanted you to reach is here, and it's called restoration. You'll begin to see the signs of this restoration in ways your past self wouldn't even recognize. That version of you, the one who accepted crumbs, who kept apologizing for existing, who tiptoed so others could stay comfortable, that version has now dissolved in divine fire. What rises now is someone bold, radiant and appointed, not perfect but positioned. And what about the relationships that cracked your soul? God says, they will no longer define how you see yourself. Your value was never in how they treated you, your worth was not in their words. And the rejection you faced was redirection, a holy rerouting. You thought they walked away because you lacked something, but heaven watched, and the truth is, they left because they lacked the strength to grow with someone chosen. You're not missing anything, you're not behind, you're not broken. You're blooming just in a different season. Archangel Michael whispers, the roots took longer because the fruit will be heavier. The delay wasn't denial, it was deepening. Heaven needed you to hold the blessing without dropping it from doubt, and now you will. A financial shift is coming, and this time it's not temporary, it's stability anchored in grace. You'll notice small things at first, a refund, a closed bill, unexpected favor, support from a stranger. These are divine indicators, and the more you lean into gratitude, the more the windows open. God says, lack is no longer your portion, provision is being multiplied. And emotionally, prepare. Because healing is about to touch places within you that you've hidden even from yourself. Old memories may rise, not to haunt you but to be held with new eyes. This time you won't feel broken by them, you'll feel power. Because what once hurt now teaches, what once shattered now shines, and that light is your wisdom, your divine compass. There's a dream you left on the altar of disappointment, a vision you tucked away when the pain became louder than the promise. But Archangel Michael says, it's time to dust it off. That vision was never dead, it was waiting for your soul to be ready again, and now it is. You'll begin receiving instructions, nudges, sudden motivation. Don't ignore it, this is divine alignment. You're stepping into the kind of clarity that no one can shake. What confused you for years will suddenly make sense. The people who ghosted you will reveal their true colors, not through words but through the silence they once used as a weapon. And this time you won't chase clarity from others, you'll carry it within. Archangel Michael is placing a sword of truth in your spirit. You will no longer be drained by lies dressed as concern, you will no longer shrink to make others feel comfortable. The time of self-abandonment is over, you belong to yourself again, you belong to God, and that identity is unshakable. You'll feel it in your body too, a release, a lightness. Where you once held tension, peace will settle. Where there was fatigue, energy will rise. That's not coincidence, that's spiritual detangling. You were carrying burdens that never belonged to you, and now God says, lay them down, I'll carry what was never yours to begin with. Let go of the guilt for surviving, for evolving, for healing. You don't owe your old self an explanation and you don't owe your new self punishment. Forgive yourself for not knowing then what you know now. Michael says, you did the best you could with the wisdom you had, and now that wisdom has grown, that means your choices will too. A final message, pay attention to water. Whether it's in dreams, rain, or moments near rivers, lakes, or even your own tears. Water is cleansing you, it's how spirit confirms release. Let the waters wash over what was, let them carry away the shame, the doubt, the fear. You are not who you were, you are who you're becoming. And child of light, the reason this message found you is because something sacred within you refused to give up. Even when you whispered, I'm done, your soul whispered louder, but I'm not finished. And heaven heard that whisper, that's why the angels kept circling, that's why Michael never left your side. So now this is where you stand, at the edge of a beginning the enemy hoped you'd never see, at the border of blessings that were whispered over your name before you were even born, at the door of divine reversal, favor and overflow. And this time you're not walking in with fear, you're walking in with fire, with knowing, with divine confidence. Because you survived what was meant to end you and now you're rising into what was always meant for you. The story is not over. It's just becoming everything it was meant to be. And heaven is still writing. Michael says, I fought for this message to reach you because heaven refused to let you continue living beneath your spiritual inheritance. And now that you've received it, something in the atmosphere around you just shifted. You may not see it yet, but your spirit already feels it. The heaviness that clung to your chest, the confusion that sat like fog over your decisions, the silent grief that made joy feel impossible, it's lifting. Slowly but certainly. Because this was never just about information, it was about activation. You've just been spiritually activated, and the enemy knows it. That's why in the coming days you may feel a strange resistance. Don't fear it, it's not a sign you're failing, it's proof that the darkness that once claimed space around you is being evicted. That resistance, it's just the last echoes of a defeated force trying to scream louder than the truth you now carry. Archangel Michael says, the biggest lie spoken over your life was that you were replaceable. You are not, you never were. God didn't just create you to exist, He created you to reveal something divine, something that no one else could ever replicate. That's why your absence would leave a gap in this world that heaven refused to let remain empty. You were called back, not just to hope, but to purpose. You were always meant to be a vessel of breakthrough for yourself and for others. And now the next stage of your journey begins, but this time you walk it with clarity, with strength, with divine permission to expect better, to receive more and to say no to anything that does not honor your worth. There will be whispers in your soul over the next few days, guiding thoughts that seem to appear from nowhere. Do not dismiss them, that's heaven's voice. Your discernment is sharpening. What you thought was just intuition is actually the Holy Spirit aligning your thoughts with God's movement. Michael says, your sensitivity is your strength, not your weakness. That's why you feel things before others do, that's why your silence holds weight, that's why your presence changes rooms even when you speak no words. You carry something holy, that's why the attacks were personal, because your anointing is personal. But now that you're awake to it, it can no longer be silenced. Do not be surprised if people from your past begin reaching out, some to reconnect, some to apologize and some to test if your boundaries are real. Michael warns, not everyone deserves a seat in your future just because they existed in your past. This next season is about spiritual preservation. Who you allow near you will either multiply your peace or divide your focus. Choose wisely, heaven is not asking you to be cruel, only clear. Forgiveness is free, but access must now be earned. Let your healing speak louder than your hurt, and let your peace become the answer to the chaos they once brought into your life. And now, beloved, one final word is being released. Michael says, this part is sacred. Take a breath. Let your spirit settle. Because these words are being written on your heart. This is your covenant moment. Heaven has recorded this exchange. The words you read have become spiritual agreements. They now move with you, angels are assigned to ensure their fulfillment. And the story that once brought you shame is now turning into a testimony of triumph. You are not just recovering, you are rising. You are not just moving on, you are moving up. And where you're going, the weight of the past can no longer follow. Michael leans close now, his sword no longer drawn in defense but lifted in declaration. He says, I mark you now with the seal of victory. I assign angels to the corners of your life, north, south, east and west. No weapon formed against you shall prosper and no lie spoken against you shall stand. What was sent to confuse you will now confirm your calling, what tried to bury you will now build your platform, and what was meant for evil, God has already repurposed for good. Your soul was never lost, it was in hiding, waiting, healing, becoming. And now it emerges, not fragile but fortified, not timid but transformed. You are the proof that grace wins, that light always outlasts darkness, that the story doesn't end in defeat. And even if your voice trembles as you step forward, know this, the heavens are applauding, Archangel Michael is smiling, and God is already preparing the next divine appointment that will confirm everything you just received. So tonight before you sleep, whisper these words into the silence: I remember who I am, I reclaim what is mine, I rise without apology, I walk with heaven. And in that moment, the very air around you will shift again. Because when the soul finally agrees with its divine identity, all of creation takes notice. Watch closely, listen deeply, expect fully. Because from this point forward, you are not waiting for the breakthrough, you are walking in it. A delayed opportunity opening right back up, but this time it will come with favor. This time you won't need to convince anyone, they'll come to you already decided, already prepared, already carrying what you once had to beg for. Michael whispers again, you are not forgotten, you are not late, you are right on divine time. And now the angels are shifting something in your sleep. Yes, even while you rest, heaven is working. There is no moment when the divine is absent from your process. God is healing the unseen wounds, resetting the deep exhaustion you couldn't speak about. You will wake up lighter, not just in your body but in your soul. People will look at you and not understand why you glow, why you no longer flinch at the thought of the past, why your peace is so unshakable. But you'll know, you'll remember this moment, you'll remember this word, you'll remember that something changed and it was not a coincidence, it was your decree. Michael says, no more false attachments, no more emotional debts. You are cleared. What does that mean? It means that people who once held emotional power over you will suddenly seem small. Their words won't stick, their energy won't reach, their access is revoked. Not because you are cruel but because you are covered. Covered in something heaven sanctioned, covered in protection bought by your obedience, covered in destiny that can no longer be delayed. And now you're entering the restoration cycle. Every good thing that was withheld is now circling back to find you. Relationships that were healthy but lost due to interference may return, this time fortified. Resources that slipped through your fingers are returning, this time multiplied. And joy, the kind of joy that makes no logical sense, is preparing to flood your atmosphere. Not because everything is perfect, but because your spirit has aligned with truth. And the truth is, you are worthy, you always were. There will be signs, watch for them. A dream that feels too vivid to ignore, a number that keeps showing up, a song that enters your ears at just the right moment. These are not accidents, these are confirmations. Michael says, you'll know it's divine when it doesn't make sense to your mind but it brings peace to your soul. So stop doubting, stop replaying old wounds as proof of your limitations. That version of you expired, this version, the one reading this right now, is spiritually upgraded. Even your breath feels different now. That's not your imagination, that's the lifting of a weight you carried for far too long. You'll notice it in small ways, how you respond differently, how you no longer feel the urge to explain your worth, how your silence feels more powerful than their noise. This is spiritual maturity, this is proof that the fire didn't destroy you, it refined you. Now a secret, heaven has been preparing someone who will walk beside you in the next chapter. Not to fix you, not to complete you but to recognize you. You won't need to explain your past, they'll feel it. You won't have to convince them of your vision, they'll already carry the same fire. This is divine companionship, soul-aligned partnership. Not always romantic but always ordained. And when it arrives you'll know because your soul will finally exhale. You'll feel safe, truly safe for the first time in years. Michael is still speaking, still present, still surrounding you with the light of divine truth. He says, the enemy hoped you'd break down, but instead you broke open. What was supposed to end you has only introduced you to a version of yourself you didn't even know existed. Stronger, sharper, soft but not weak, kind but no longer naive. Your discernment has grown wings and now you'll see everything for what it really is. Not through fear but through clarity. So take a deep breath, right now. Inhale the peace that was just released, exhale the residue of what tried to linger. You are not carrying that anymore. And no, you're not being dramatic, you're being delivered. Heaven doesn't exaggerate. When it says shift, it means total transformation. Not just your job, not just your relationships, but your identity. You are no longer who they knew, and that's the point. You've outgrown the version of life that tolerated your suffering. You are now stepping into the one that honors your essence. This message is not just something to hear, it's something to live. Let these words move your feet, let them reroute your steps, let them give you permission to dream again without fear of disappointment. Because this time you're not dreaming alone, God is dreaming through you, Michael is guarding the gates, the angels are aligning the paths, and the universe, it's echoing back your yes with 100 open doors. So walk like someone who knows the next 7 days carry a miracle, smile like someone who already touched what was once only prayed for, sleep like someone who is guarded by celestial forces, and live, yes, live like you finally believe that you are who heaven says you are. Because you are. And as that final truth settles deep in your soul, Archangel Michael steps closer, not with more instructions but with a holy presence so real it begins to quiet every anxious part of you. You don't need to chase signs anymore, you don't need to beg for clarity. You are the sign, you are the evidence. The shift already happened and now your atmosphere is catching up with the truth your spirit already knows. Michael says, heaven does not delay without purpose. And now that purpose is complete. The waiting season is over. That's why everything is beginning to feel unfamiliar. What once drained you no longer even gets your attention, what used to scare you now seems so small. That's transformation, beloved, not loud, not dramatic but undeniable. Your silence is no longer empty, it's sacred. Your boundaries are no longer walls, they're gates of discernment. You are no longer surviving, you're commanding your atmosphere. And as you do, heaven is responding in real time. You'll see this in the way peace follows you even into chaos, you'll feel it when opportunities are drawn to you without effort, you'll know it when the right people start appearing with no explanation. This is what happens when alignment replaces striving, when divine timing overtakes human pressure. Michael says, don't try to explain it, just walk in it. Walk in the favor, walk in the healing, walk in the overflow. Your hands are now anointed to build what the enemy tried to burn down. Your voice is now charged to speak things into existence. Your heart is now protected by heavenly armor forged in fire and tears. And every time you take a breath from now on, let it remind you, you made it. Not because of luck, not because of chance but because you were chosen and covered. And yes, they will watch. Those who mocked you, doubted you, misjudged you, they'll witness your rising. But Michael says, don't look back to prove them wrong, look forward to fulfill your calling. You are not here to impress, you are here to impact. And that impact has already begun. Your presence is now a portal for divine movement. Every room you walk into carries a vibration of glory. Your words are not just communication, they are activations. And even when you feel quiet, your spirit is roaring with authority. Heaven says, you no longer need permission to be powerful. You no longer need to hide your light so others feel comfortable in their darkness. Rise, speak, move, shine. Because the anointing you carry is not accidental, it's generational. It was assigned to your bloodline, but it waited for someone brave enough to say, it ends with me, it begins with me. And that someone was you. Michael says, because of your yes, your lineage will know peace. Because of your obedience, your future will know increase. Because of your surrender, heaven can now release the full flood of favor that was once held back, not to punish you but to prepare you. You had to be strengthened first, you had to be emptied of illusions, you had to be trained in the fire. But now you are unshakable, now you are rooted, now you are ready. So look around with new eyes. Look at your life as the fertile ground that it now is, speak over it like a prophet, bless it like a priest, walk through it like royalty. Because that's what you are, divine royalty wearing invisible crowns guided by an unseen army. And yes, the angels are rejoicing. Not because you're perfect but because you're willing. Willing to trust again, willing to love again, willing to try again. That willingness is all heaven needed. And now, beloved, this is where you exhale. Not because the journey is over but because you're no longer walking in confusion. You are walking in covenant. And covenant doesn't waver with storms, covenant stands, covenant grows, covenant multiplies. Michael says, your latter days shall be greater than the former. The tears you cried will return as blessings, the nights you prayed will return as open doors, the losses you grieved will return as unexpected gifts. And in this moment, all of heaven leans in, not to instruct you but to celebrate you. To affirm that your obedience was not in vain, to declare that your name is safe in God's mouth, that your purpose is guarded by angelic hands, and your future has already been seen and it is good. So breathe again, smile again, hope again. Because from this moment forward, miracles will feel normal, peace will be your default, and elevation will be your language. Heaven loves you, Michael walks beside you, and God has already gone ahead of you. Amen.